The fall doctor Elena Vasquez pressed her face closer to the monitor, her coffee growing cold as she stared at the impossible readings. The Deep Space Observatory had been her second home for 12 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The energy signatures were massive, organized, and definitely artificial. "Maria, come look at this," she called to her research partner. The late shift meant only 2 people were monitoring humanity's eyes on the cosmos, and Elena was grateful for the company. Maria Rodriguez hurried over, her sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. "What is it? Solar flare activity?" "No, look at the pattern. These aren't random energy bursts. They're coordinated, structured, and they're moving toward us from 2 different directions." Elena's fingers danced across the keyboard, pulling up additional data streams. "Whatever they are, they're huge. The energy output is beyond anything we've ever recorded." Maria frowned at the screen. "Could be a natural phenomenon we haven't cataloged yet. Deep space is full of surprises." "Maybe, but the mathematical precision of these movements suggests intelligence, high-level intelligence." Elena saved the data and reached for her phone. "I'm calling Director Harrison. This needs to go up the chain immediately." Within 6 hours, every major government on Earth was in emergency session. The objects were clearly artificial vessels, moving faster than anything humanity had ever conceived. Worse, they were on a direct course for Earth's solar system. Captain Marcus Chen stood in the Pentagon briefing room, studying satellite feeds from telescopes around the world. A career military man with 23 years of service, he had seen his share of crises, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Best estimates put them at our solar system's edge in 18 hours, reported General Patterson, pointing at the tactical display. "We've attempted communication on every frequency. We can broadcast, no response." 2 separate fleets, Chen observed, noting the formation patterns. "They're not together. In fact, their trajectories suggest they might be hostile to each other." "Our xenobiology teams think the same thing," Patterson agreed. "We might be looking at first contact with 2 different species who are already at war with each other." The implications hung heavy in the room. Earth had spent decades preparing for the possibility of alien contact, but those preparations had assumed a single species making peaceful overtures. No one had planned for becoming the battlefield between 2 alien civilizations. The first ships entered Earth's solar system at dawn, their massive forms blotting out portions of the star field. The vessels were unlike anything in human science, fiction, crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around themselves. Behind them came the second fleet, ships of dark metal that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Dr. Elena Vasquez watched from the observatory as the 2 fleets took positions on opposite sides of the solar system, with Earth directly between them. Her hands shook as she calibrated the instruments for closer observation. "They're beautiful," Maria whispered, staring at the crystalline ships. "Like living art." "And deadly," Elena added, noting the energy readings. Each of those vessels could sterilize a planet. The first communication came simultaneously to every radio, television, and internet-connected device on Earth. The translation was instantaneous, suggesting technology far beyond human capability. "Attention, primitive inhabitants of the Third World," the message began, the voice cold and mechanical. "I am Overseer Vex of the Collective. Your world lies within our territorial expansion zone. Evacuation will commence immediately. You have 12 standard cycles to comply." Before the world's leaders could respond, a second message overrode the first. This voice was different, proud and resonant with harmonics that human ears could barely process. "Inferior life forms, I am Commander Zephyr of the Hegemony. Your world now falls under our protection sphere. The Collective's claim is illegitimate. Remain in your dwellings while we resolve this dispute." Elena felt sick to her stomach. Earth wasn't being contacted by aliens. Earth was being claimed by them, like a piece of territory in some vast cosmic game. The first shots fired 3 hours later. Beams of energy that would have powered Earth's entire electrical grid for a century lanced between the fleets. The space around Earth lit up like the 4th of July, but with weapons that could crack moons. On the surface, panic spread through every major city. Governments activated emergency protocols while scientists like Elena watched helplessly as the battle raged above their heads. Captain Chen found himself in charge of Earth's hastily assembled defense coordination, though everyone knew it was a meaningless title. Earth's most advanced weapons were like firecrackers compared to what was fighting overhead. "Sir, we're receiving debris reports," his aide announced. "Large chunks of alien technology are falling into the Pacific. Engineering teams are requesting permission to study any intact pieces." "Granted," Chen replied, though he wondered if there would be time to learn anything useful. "What's our evacuation status?" "Chaos, sir. We've converted every large vessel we can find, but we can only fit maybe 50,000 people. The selection process..." The aide trailed off. "How do you choose who lives when a species faces extinction?" The battle above intensified. Elena watched through the observatory's most powerful telescope as the alien vessels maneuvered with grace that defied physics. The crystalline ships moved like dancers while the dark metal vessels struck like hammers. Neither side paid any attention to the small blue world caught between them. That's when the accident happened. A hegemony vessel, damaged by collective fire, attempted to ram its opponent. The collective ship's defensive systems overloaded, releasing a pulse of energy that missed its intended target completely. The pulse hit Earth dead center. Elena had one moment to see the planet's surface begin to glow, one moment to realize what was happening, before the shockwave reached the lunar-based observatory. Her last coherent thought was that the aliens hadn't meant to destroy Earth. They simply hadn't cared enough to avoid it. Earth died in silence, as space carried no sound. 7 billion people, countless species, thousands of years of art, literature, music, and dreams, all gone in a flash of misdirected alien technology. But not all of humanity died that day. Captain Chen had managed to get 47,000 people off-world in converted cargo ships, mining vessels, and even luxury space yachts. The evacuation fleet watched from a safe distance as their home became a ball of cooling slag. Among the survivors was Zara Okafor, a brilliant engineer who had been working on the International Space Station when the attack began. Also aboard was Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had been conducting observations from the lunar facility when Earth died. 47,000, Chen announced over the fleet-wide communication system, his voice hollow with grief and exhaustion. 47,000 out of 7 billion. We are all that remains of the human race. The alien fleets continued their battle for another 6 hours before both sides withdrew, apparently considering the matter settled. The collective had lost 3 vessels. The hegemony had lost 2. Earth's destruction was barely a footnote in their war reports. The human survivors drifted in space, their hastily converted ships barely capable of sustaining life for more than a few weeks. They had fuel for perhaps one jump to another star system, if they could find one that might support life. "We need to move," Chen announced to the ship captains. "Both alien fleets are still in the system. If they notice us..." They jumped to Proxima Centauri, the closest star system to their destroyed home. The red dwarf star offered little hope for habitable worlds, but it was far enough from the battle zone to provide temporary safety. As the refugee fleet settled into orbit around a barren asteroid, the survivors began to take inventory. They had salvaged some alien technology from the debris field. They had Earth's greatest minds among the evacuees, and they had something the aliens clearly lacked: the ability to adapt quickly to impossible circumstances. "We're going to survive this," Elena told herself as she stared out at the red dwarf star. "We survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters. We'll survive this too." But survival, she knew, would require becoming something more than human. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that destroying Earth meant destroying humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The reckoning 15 years had passed since Earth's destruction. What had begun as a desperate refugee fleet had transformed into something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now 58 years old and the chief science officer of what they called the Haven Colony, stood before a holographic display that would have been impossible with Earth technology. The data streaming across her screen represented 15 years of relentless innovation, born from necessity. Status report, she said to her team of scientists and engineers, most of whom had been children when Earth died. Reactor efficiency is up another 12%, reported David Kim, a young physicist whose parents had been aboard the evacuation fleet. The hybrid power systems are performing beyond all projections. Zara Okafor, now the colony's chief engineer, nodded with satisfaction. Her hair had gone gray, but her eyes still held the fierce intelligence that had helped humanity survive its darkest hour. The new ship designs are ready for testing. We've managed to combine hegemony crystalline technology with collective quantum processing. The aliens never thought to merge their technologies. Elena smiled. That was humanity's secret weapon, the thing that neither the hegemony nor the collective possessed. The ability to see connections where others saw only differences. Haven Colony itself was a marvel of adaptive engineering. Built inside a series of connected asteroids in the Outer Rim territories, it housed all 47,000 human survivors, plus nearly 10,000 children born since the evacuation. The colony was completely hidden from alien detection, using technology reverse-engineered from the debris of that terrible battle. Captain Marcus Chen, now Admiral of the Human Fleet, entered the command center. At 62, he had aged well, his leadership having evolved from desperate survival to strategic planning. Behind him walked Sarah Chen, his daughter, who had been born aboard the refugee ships and was now a squadron leader in humanity's new military force. Intelligence reports are coming in, Marcus announced. Both the hegemony and the collective are expanding their territorial disputes. The war that killed Earth has spread to 17 different star systems. Casualties? Elena asked. Massive. On both sides, but that's not the interesting part. Our deep space monitoring has detected something unexpected. Both factions are experiencing resource shortages. Their rigid military doctrines are bleeding them dry. Sarah stepped forward, activating a tactical hologram. We've identified a key supply convoy from each faction that will be passing through the Kepler 442 system next month. Both sides are sending their best ships to protect these convoys. Elena raised an eyebrow. And we're going to hit both of them, Marcus said with a grim smile. It's time to announce that humanity is still alive. The plan was audacious, requiring every ship in the human fleet and depending on alien psychology that they had studied for 15 years. The hegemony believed in honor and direct confrontation. The collective valued efficiency and calculated responses. Neither side could imagine an enemy that could adapt both approaches simultaneously. 3 weeks later, Zara stood on the bridge of the Retribution, humanity's flagship. The vessel was a masterpiece of hybrid technology, combining the best of human ingenuity with alien advancement. Its hull was composed of hegemony crystal metal alloys that could self-repair, while its weapon systems used collective quantum targeting for impossible accuracy. Fleet status? She asked Commander Torres, who had been a cargo ship pilot during the evacuation and was now one of humanity's best tacticians. All vessels in position. The hegemony convoy will arrive in 30 minutes, collective convoy in or 45. Both are bringing heavy escorts, just as predicted. The human fleet consisted of 27 ships, each one unique. Unlike the aliens, who mass-produced identical vessels, humans had built each ship to serve specific tactical roles, while remaining adaptable to changing situations. Remember, Zara announced over the fleet communication system, we're not trying to destroy both fleets. We're making a statement. Let them know that the species they ignored has become something they need to fear. The hegemony convoy dropped out of faster-than-light travel first. Commander Zephyr's distinctive crystalline flagship led 12 escort vessels, their formation perfect and predictable. The same alien commander who had dismissed Earth as irrelevant was about to face humanity's response. Unknown vessels, came the transmission, its tone imperious and dismissive. You are trespassing in hegemony territorial space. Identify yourselves immediately. Sarah Chen, now commanding the strike wing, smiled as she opened communications. Commander Zephyr, this is Squadron Leader Sarah Chen of the Human Remnant Fleet. We're the survivors of the primitive world your battle destroyed 15 years ago. The silence stretched for several seconds. When Zephyr replied, the arrogance was gone from its voice. Impossible. Your world was sterilized. No primitive species could have survived such destruction. We're full of surprises, Sarah replied. Now you're going to learn what happens when you underestimate humans. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The human ships moved with fluid grace that matched the hegemony vessels but employed tactics that constantly shifted and adapted. When the hegemony fleet formed their traditional honor guard formation, the humans scattered like startled birds, only to regroup in an entirely different configuration. Zara watched from the Retribution's bridge as her people demonstrated 15 years of innovation. Their weapon systems used both hegemony and collective technology, but in combinations that neither alien species had conceived. Energy beams that shifted frequency mid-flight, quantum torpedoes that phased through shields, and defensive screens that adapted in real time to incoming attacks. 3 hegemony escorts were disabled before Zephyr realized that these weren't the primitive humans it remembered. These were something new, something dangerous. That's when the collective convoy arrived. Overseer Vex, the same cold intelligence that had dismissed humanity as primitive, found its fleet facing not only the expected hegemony force, but also an unknown fleet that was fighting with impossible effectiveness. Analysis inconclusive, Vex transmitted to its fleet. Unknown vessels demonstrate technology beyond current databases. Recommend immediate withdrawal, but humanity wasn't finished with either faction. This is Admiral Marcus Chen. The transmission went out to both alien fleets simultaneously. You probably don't remember us. We were the primitive species caught between your battle 15 years ago, the ones you accidentally exterminated when you couldn't be bothered to aim properly. Elena, monitoring from Haven Colony, smiled as she watched both alien fleets hesitate. For the first time in their ancient civilizations, they were facing something they couldn't categorize or predict. We learned from watching you fight, Marcus continued. We studied your technology, your tactics, your psychology. We spent 15 years preparing for this moment. And now you're going to learn why underestimating humanity was the biggest mistake either of your species ever made. The human fleet suddenly split into 3 groups. One group engaged the hegemony vessels using their own honor-based tactics but with improved efficiency. Another group hit the collective fleet with cold, calculated precision that exceeded their own algorithmic warfare. The third group struck both fleets simultaneously, using tactics that neither species could comprehend. Within 2 hours, both convoys were in retreat. The hegemony had lost 5 vessels, the collective had lost 4, and both commanders were transmitting frantic reports back to their home territories about the emergence of a new galactic power. Humanity had lost no ships, though several were damaged. More importantly, they had captured intact examples of the most advanced alien technology and taken hundreds of prisoners from both species. Phase 1. Complete, Elena announced, as the human fleet regrouped. Now comes the interesting part. Over. The following months, humanity revealed the true scope of their transformation. Haven Colony was just one of 12 hidden settlements. The human population had grown to over 70,000, with another generation being raised on technology that seamlessly blended the best of 3 species. More shocking to the galactic powers was humanity's approach to their prisoners. Instead of executing or enslaving them, humans studied alien psychology and began releasing them with careful modifications to their memories. Soon, reports began filtering back to both the hegemony and collective about human colonies that welcomed refugee populations from their war. They're doing what? Commander Zephyr demanded of its intelligence officers. The humans are offering sanctuary to civilians displaced by our conflict, came the report. They're also providing medical aid and technological assistance to worlds caught between our territories. Overseer Vex received similar reports with equal confusion. This behavior pattern does not match any known species. They defeat our military forces, then offer assistance to our populations. Analysis suggests either elaborate deception or genuine altruistic motivation. The truth was both simpler and more complex than either alien leader could understand. Humanity had learned that survival meant more than just avoiding extinction. It meant creating something worth preserving. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now recognized as one of the galaxy's foremost experts on interspecies cooperation, stood before a mixed assembly of humans and aliens in the Haven Colony's main auditorium. Refugees from a dozen species that had been caught in the expanding war listened as she outlined humanity's vision for the future. "We don't want to replace the hegemony or the collective," she explained. "We want to show the galaxy that there's another way. Competition doesn't have to mean destruction. Strength doesn't have to mean domination." 6 months after the convoy battles, both alien powers requested formal diplomatic contact with the human remnant. The species they had dismissed as primitive had become a force that could defeat their best fleets and offer alternatives to their ancient conflicts. Admiral Chen stood in the negotiation chamber aboard a neutral space station, facing both Commander Zephyr and Overseer Vex. The irony wasn't lost on him that these were the same beings whose carelessness had destroyed Earth. "You want tribute," Zephyr stated, its crystalline form reflecting the chamber's lights. "All species seek to expand their territory and resources. You seek assimilation," Vex added, its dark form absorbing light. "Efficient integration of superior technology and genetic material." Marcus smiled, an expression that seemed to confuse both aliens. "We want something neither of your species would understand. We want to go home." "Your world was destroyed," Zephyr pointed out. "No amount of territory can restore what was lost." "True," Marcus agreed. "But we've learned something in 15 years of exile. Home isn't a place. It's what you build with the people who matter to you. And we've built something worth fighting for." Elena stepped forward, her scientific credentials commanding respect even from alien civilizations. "We propose a three-way alliance. Not conquest, not assimilation, but cooperation. You've been fighting the same war for 3,000 years. We've been adapting and innovating for 15. Imagine what we could accomplish together." The negotiations that followed would reshape galactic politics for centuries to come. The hegemony learned efficiency from human adaptability. The collective learned innovation from human creativity. And humanity learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't destroying your enemy, but showing them a better way to live. Years later, Elena would look back on that moment as the true beginning of human ascendancy. Not through conquest or domination, but through the simple revolutionary act of proving that a species dismissed as primitive could become the teachers of their former oppressors. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's weakness. Then they had made the mistake of underestimating what humans could become when they had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. In the end, the greatest weapon humanity possessed wasn't superior technology or military might. It was the ability to see potential where others saw only problems, to find hope where others found only despair, and to build bridges where others built walls. The last survivors of Earth had become the first citizens of a new galaxy, one where being different wasn't a weakness to be eliminated but a strength to be celebrated.